Namaste,
Namaste.
konnichiwa,
Konnichiwa.
konbanwa, good evening.
Good
Thank you so
evening.
much, Ms. Mioi Forster Nakayama, for accepting our invite and being here with us today. Thank you so much. We really feel happy within such a short notice and with the kind of busy schedule that you had accepted this invite. And thank you so much for all the viewers who are joining in today in this online Youth Ki Baat e-dialogue that we have been running along with Global Culture and Vivekananda Global Foundation. Thank you so much once again. To just give a brief about Miss Mioi, she is a master. She has studied her masters in dance movement psychotherapy. She, before moving to the UK, she was in India for 11 years, and she wanted to explore more and more of Asian cultures. And she lived in Germany for 2 years before India. I think if I remember rightly, she visited India in the year 2001, and then again, and she was thrilled, as I understand from her, to step into the Indian soil, not knowing much about language, people, culture, or cuisines. And then she returned back again in 2002, and then which motivated her to stay in India for 11 long years. After 3 years of her stay in India, I mean, the kind of works that she has done over the 11 years, for over a decade in India, is something that is mind boggling. She ended up starting a school called Born Free Arts School in Bangalore, definitely. But then the only problem that I could also think, because as a student that I come from Bangalore, I mean, I did my graduation in Bangalore. Language could be one of the problem. I mean, even an Indian going to the southern region of India, language happens to be a problem. And I was thinking, how would she manage that language? But not initially. I'm sure she faced challenges, but then she became fluent in Kannada as well. For me, I can speak Solpa Solpa Kannada go through. So she is a licensed practitioner of dance movement therapy, registered at the Dance Movement Therapy Association of Australia. And she has big dreams to mobilize young people in Hiroshima, Japan, or India, Australia, and do cultural exchange programs, educate them in various topics such as nuclear free world, environmental issues, racism, and gender equality. And she's highly passionate about working creatively with young people from different cultures coming together and making this global village. So thank you so much, Ms. Mioi, for being here with us today. Uh,
Yes.
just to give a little introduction more about her, I would share uh, a small video of her that she had, you know, in 2009 when she had this Pierce bicycle. And sure she would talk much about it later in this dialogue today. So I will just share the screen.
Lungs are clean, which is really big. Body is the strongest of the jumping palm. And to get it harm. Cycle, 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 cycle. The buckles of the land, they fell for the hammer.
So this is something that Mioi had done earlier on the piece Bicycle. And it is to all of viewers, this is back in 2009. So there could be data that could have been changed. There could a lot of things that have evolved. But yes, this is the kind of work that we could see from Mioi. So not taking much, I would just like to introduce to all of you that we, on this occasion of the Hiroshima Day, on 6th of August 2020, approximately 75 years ago on the same date, that the incident reminds us of the horrors of war and the horrors which continue even today, the pranks that continues even today. And I think that the solution that could only lie to such problems of humanity happens to be in peace and progress, the violence-free world, which Mioi has been advocating for a long time now. The bombings remind us of the horror of the war and their effects on humanity, which even after 75 years could be seen in different aspects, in different forms. And I think solutions to these problems lies only in the peace and progress. And it is important that countries together walk shoulder to shoulder and create a peaceful world free from violence. As of our discussion today, on the ancient century, blossoming of peace education in South-South, to a lot of you who would understand what South-South cooperation is, which was adapted back in Argentina, and the cooperation was called BAPA. It refers to the technical cooperation among countries in the global South. It is a tool used by the states, international organizations, academics, civil society bodies, and the private sectors to collaborate and share knowledge, skills, and successful initiatives in specific areas such as agricultural development, human rights, urbanization, nuclear-free world, and definitely to achieve the sustainable development goals by the 2030. The plan established a scheme of collaboration among least developed countries and the developing countries and the developed ones, mostly located in the south of the planet, and it is also established for the first time a framework for this type of cooperation. His Excellency Secretary General of United Nations mentions innovative forms of knowledge exchange, technology transfer, emergency response, and recovery of livelihoods led the South as by the transforming of lives. And back there with the image that you could see, the portrait behind me, Swami Vivekananda, who comes from the land of India, he said that there would be a time when the East and the West has to come together. Whether from the West, we would have the technological advancements that needs to be taken. And from the East, the subjects like spirituality, peace education, and issues and such under cultural diversity has to be accepted, and they need to be amalgamated together. So we would like to hear more from Ms. Mioi on ancient century blossoming of peace education in South-South. Over to you, please.
Thank you for having me today. So my name is Mioi. I'm from Hiroshima. I was born and brought up in there. When I say so, a lot of people ask me, so is Hiroshima still okay? Has Hiroshima recovered? And I'm like, yes, it's a beautiful city. We have 7 rivers. Where the epicenter happened, where it was, and it's so beautiful, Peace Memorial Park, and thousands of people come every year, and especially when Obama came in 2016, it raises more issues. And then he was the first president of United States who came to Hiroshima and paid tribute, which was good. And I was so glad that I went to a school where peace education was so much of their focus. So from 7th grade to 12th grade, 6 years, I had a very intense peace education every year in June. And because 6th of August, so towards 6th of August, we kind of start like lessons around June time. And first year, because in my school, back in 1945, more than 400 students from my school were engaging in like construction work for the war purpose, and then more than 400 students were killed instantly after the blasting of the bomb. And so we kind of first learned about this history and how our students actually, were victimized, really. And then second year, we learned about the whole city of Hiroshima, how the city was affected and how it was the aftermath and, other things and history and stuff. And the third year, which is ninth grade, we study about Nagasaki, and as a school trip, we go to Nagasaki, and then we go there to the site, and then we just see, we go to the Peace Memorial Park, and as well as museum and stuff. And then, but not only that, 10th grade, we study about our dark side of the history, I would say, which is because as Japanese, we also invaded Asian countries and then killed so many Asian people in our history. So we study about that. And then the fourth year, we study about Okinawa, because Okinawa was the only place which was invaded by United States, and then how civilians were forced to be involved in the war, and how they were killed and all those things. And then asked school trip again to go to Okinawa. So in this sense, it's quite intense. And then when I went to Tokyo to study, and then when I said, 6th of August, we do this, and then people from other cities and other places of the area were like, what is 6th of August? People still have no idea, even people from Japan have no idea what 6th of August is or 9th of August is. So I'm so glad actually you as Indians actually take up this portion of history. And I know actually that some schools in Kerala, for example, they actually do Hiroshima days. So I just wonder sometimes, like maybe more Indian people do Hiroshima Day than Japanese people, and they're more aware, which is really good. And I just think peace education is a core to educate young people in the right direction of ahimsa, of non-violence, which India has been believing for so many years. And and I think this is the only solution that perhaps we can work towards a non-nuclear world. And I think India is so much responsible in this term because India has nuclear weapons, perhaps against your neighbor country. And that's why when I was living in India since 2000 to 2013, which is quite a long time ago. But and the film that you actually saw at the beginning is what I did, and I had an art school. So an art school for street children, and how they come to school, how they come back to education itself is through music, dance, theater, photography, and filmmaking, through the arts. So that street children feel more attracted in schools rather than on the street. That's the purpose of our school. And on top of that, so bringing street children out of the street and then also back to school, out of that, and apart from that, we actually did peace education, because I think we thought like, okay, Indian government has spending, I think most government spent a lot of money on defense, on military or all these sort of things, but not much on education. Social services cut, education expenses cut. That's the norm of every country, and so was India, I think, at that time. So we thought, why don't we spend more money on education rather than on defense? We don't need nuclear weapons, because if you use one, not only India and Pakistan will be destroyed, but the whole entire world. It's no need to say this. It's just, it's everyone. It's the apparent fact. So we did a campaign which is called Peace Bicycle. It was a crazy idea because we took cycles, and then we thought, okay, let's go to the Wagah border, and they just tried to meet, Pakistani artists. So we had the the meeting point with the Pakistani artists with the children, and then we thought, okay, if we go throughout Indian soil, then let's collect letters of love from children of India to the children of Pakistan, and then believe that actually people want peace, not war, not violence against the neighboring country. And that was the truth. I think we collected 7,000 letters, which was great. And not one single person said like, okay, we want to fight against Pakistan because of this reason. And then none of them said, no children has said so. So I believe that I think that's a really, something that we all have to remember, and then we all have to keep believing. And as Indians, I think you have a lot to do. Start educating people as young persons, start getting to know about your history, about your country, about your great leaders, like Gandhi and, other people. And then I think that's how you start educating people. Education is the only solution. I think that's my really conclusion of my stay in India. And if you can educate one child, and this child can educate other child, and imagine that's how spreads the knowledge, I guess. And I think so we went up to the Wagah border, and then of course, because of the security reason, we couldn't cross the border. We couldn't get a visa and all of those stuff, so we couldn't even cross the border. But we could see Pakistani people just next to us, and that was an epic moment. It was a really life, experience, I guess. And I would like to say that if you have a chance to come to Hiroshima, please do visit and then see in your eyes and meet the hibakusha if they are still alive. And there are few people now, but who are still talking about their own life experience of bombing, which is perhaps possible now, still for next maybe 5 years. There are still people, but the people are dying. So if you can, please come to Hiroshima and meet survivors.
Right. I think what you have mentioned is so right. And I really thank you for the invitation to Hiroshima. I think Japan is somewhere that I'm really looking forward to visit very soon. I think it was also important in a lot of aspects that you touched in Mioi, and it is really interesting to know. I mean, the kind of movement I think that you must have started being in India as well back in 2010 decade or so back. Now just giving you a little more thoughts on this. The government of India is spending 2.1% of GDP in defense, whereas the new education policy that has just come up 2 days back, that has pledged to spend 6% of GDP in education. So there's a vast difference that now the government in India realize that it is important that we need to spend more on education as well. And whereas it is 2% in defense and 6% in education. So there's a big difference that we could see. And I'm really glad that, there were people like you who felt that it is important in India, and now it is somehow being implemented at the policy level as well. And that is interesting to hear. Also, I think what you mentioned about, how Asian countries have a lot of role to play in, especially I think India and Japan, because we share same cultural ties, we have a lot in common to give to the entire Western and to the entire world as well. And that is interesting to hear from you. And as for India to say, I think it is a land, while you mentioned about the nuke that we have to have because of the neighboring countries, but then it is as you know, back when we got the freedom, and then even till now, India believes strongly in this philosophy of peace, and you know, there is a Sanskrit shloka which ends up having meaning peace and prosperity for the entire universe and the world. And again, and what time and again, government, civil society organizations, private individuals have time and again mentioned that we are a land of flute and weapons as well, Sudarshan Chakra. So wherein we would always approach for music, that is symphony and peace. But then if there would be challenges on the countries and nations' integrity, then we would take up. But then it is very interesting to hear so much of aspects from you that has come up. You know, just quickly, because you're on live, so there could be some questions that are coming up. Something that is really coming up with us is about do peace education in general have, or do spirituality have a role to play in the entire peace education as such?
Yes, I think so, because every like spirituality and religion have the aspect of peace. And if you look at the aspects of different religions, for example, and then they all talk about the same thing, regardless you're Christians or Muslims or Hindus or whatever you are. I think we all talk about somebody's well-being and peace, really, but in different ways of saying or different words. But I think it's the same belief. So I think it does have that. And then, in fact, I went to a Christian school, and then I think we, based on that philosophy, not very much maybe spirituality, but in a way it's similar. And then I think we are influenced that in terms of peace education.
Right. Mioi, how is it possible that, you know, countries like India, or maybe not just India, for the entire world to say, how is it possible to integrate the peace education in the schooling system, number A? And do you think that the peace education as a subject or as a thought process should be evolved in the elementary stage of the education, or should it come in the latter part, in the secondary or the college that one goes for?
I think I would say peace education can start from the very young age, because in fact in primary schools in Hiroshima, we always have peace memorial so-called gathering in June. So we learn songs of peace. So songs that are talking about peace and maybe no wars and no nuclear weapons and such as. So we learned this when we were so young, and later you will understand the meaning of the songs, right? And as I wanted to say that India has such rich culture, like dance, music, everything. You guys have so much to offer, and so much to offer to express. So use that. It has to be fun, you know. Peace education should not be really serious, like, oh, we feel so sad about this. No, partially yes, but I think you can express what you think about what peace should be like through music, dance, theater, whatever. But then that's how you can educate people, and then that's how you can impress people. And I think that is really effective as well. So I would say, I think in Indian schools, I think it would be great if you can make peace education as a subject, or let's say maybe a just short-term campaign, you know, in school. You know, let's say June, July, and August, 3 months, we work on this, we study about this, like as part of, let's say, moral education, isn't it? And then I think that's really good if you have that. And then once it's introduced in schools, let's carry on.
Correct.
And that's how I am, I think.
No, you know, you just answered my final, one more question that I had in my mind, and that was coming up as well, about the using of arts, culture, and theatrics for peace education. and you have been passionate yourself. And our mutual friend Arun has been using art and music and culture to propagate the message of peace and a lot of different messages as well, which would be helpful for the society. So how do you see arts would be an important key, or would it be the only way to spread the message of peace education?
Because art is something that people remember a lot. Like if you hear a song, then you will remember a lot. If you hear a beat, you remember a lot. That's kind of non-verbal. It's like really, you cannot, sometimes words are not enough, you know. Sometimes you have to feel it in your body, and then that's how you can talk about peace, and that's how you can kind of send your messages through your way of communication, which could be, I don't know, dance or theater, or, and then I think it's really easily accepted in the Indian culture because it's just rooted in your own blood, I would say. And it's really, and also fun. You know, as I said, you should have fun. And then the persons who are trying to convey messages should have fun to talk about the topic. So to talk about, let's say, non-violence. And then you can gather people, you can, you know, involve a lot of people in just doing one production. That's how you can educate people. Education doesn't mean that you sit and then read a book. It's not that, isn't it? It's not only that. Yes. So you learn songs, you learn dialogues, or you learn form of dance or whatever, which talk about all these topics. It doesn't need to be only peace, but it can be, I think peace in vast sense is, can be non-discrimination, can be about racism, can be about harmony in religions. I think that's really important in India. If you think about, you know, Hindu and Muslim conflicts, it's really important, or even about caste. You know, it's a really diverse topic, but which is so important. And then I think not to create human beings which are talking about or acting on racist ideas, for example. I think education from early age is a key.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Right. Thank you so much, Mioi, for giving us an overview, understanding about how important it is about the peace education, and how it is about the 18th century, wherein peace education has to be incorporated across the globe. And I think from our entire dialogue and discussion today, what I could really understand, that peace education does not need to be a separate subject as a whole, but it is the value system that needs to be imbibed, and that value system should be towards non-nuclear world, towards somewhere with non-discriminatory lifestyle, and between race, caste, religion, sex, or anything. And I think that the value systems have to be imbibed. And very rightly said that the education is not about studying in a class and reading the textbooks, but it is absolutely about getting out, getting that exposure, right exposure. And there has been, and I'm so glad while I'm speaking and I'm listening to you on a lot of these aspects, that we have this revised national education policy now, which addresses to a lot of these aspects very well. And I'm so happy that this just happened 3 days back, and now that we have something, and I'm sure that, the implementation might take time over 3 to 4 years, or maybe over a decade. But I think the next generation of the decade that would rise up would have this understanding and this value system strong. And then again, with the kind of religious hegemony that had happened in India, especially when you mentioned about the Hindus and the Muslims, I'm again glad to share this very crucial information with you, that just yesterday, with the 500 years old fight between the Hindus and the Muslims that had been there on particular site in Uttar Pradesh, in Ayodhya, for a temple, the Ram Temple Mandir, so the government and with the entire Muslim community has come together with the judgment of the Supreme Court, wherein now the land would be used where the Muslims have really accepted the judgment given by the Supreme Court, and there has been so much of peace and coordination among both the communities. And I think that amalgamation of peace is gradually happening. But then again, there's a lot of works, a lot of campaigns that you mentioned that has to initiate by the young people of our country and then definitely of the world. So not taking much of your time, Mioi, thank you so much once again for being here with us. And we really appreciate the kind of works that you have done in India for the people of India and the kind of knowledge that you have. Thank you so much from all the young Indians and the youth of India today. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you.